Hi, 7th graders. Here we're going to get ready for Chapter 5 by doing a quick review of ratios and percents. Our new vocabulary for today is just percent, which is a ratio that compares a number to 100. So a percent example is 27%. The ratio is 27 out of 100, and the fraction is 27 over 100. Those three numbers are saying the same thing in three different ways. So to write a ratio as a percent, we're going to look at a couple examples and do a couple together. So in a recent census, 26 out of every 100 people living in Illinois were younger than 18. So looking at it, there was 26 who were younger than 18 out of every 100. So 26 goes first out of 100, which is 26%. We know that because of the definition of a percent that we learned on the last slide. At a local middle school, 140 students take Spanish for every 100 students who take French. So 140 students take Spanish for every 100 students who take French. So that is 140%. We know that because a percent is as a ratio out of 100. Okay, so looking at the football example, we have during his football career, Dan Marino completed a pass about 59 times out of every 100 passes he threw. So that ratio would be 59 out of 100, which by the definition of a percent is 59%. 59 out of 100 passes, 59%. Okay, in a recent year, 50 and 5/10 out of 100 households in the United States had access to the internet. So that ratio is 50 and 5/10 out of 100. So that would be 50 and 5/10% by the definition of a percent. Okay, so now we're going to try to write fractions as percents. And in order to do this, we're going to find an equivalent fraction with the denominator of 100. Okay, so looking at the Native American example, about 1 out of every 10 Native Americans in the United States are a part of the Cherokee Nation. So I have the fraction 1 over 10, and I need to find the equivalent fraction with x over 100, because a percent is a ratio out of 100. So looking at this one, I know that 10 times 10 gives me 100. So I'm going to multiply 1 by 10 to get x equals 10. So about 1 out of every 10 Native Americans in the United States are part of the Cherokee tribe or nation is equivalent to 10%. Okay, looking at the business example, about 1 over 200 of the toys were defective. Okay, so the first thing I notice is that 200 is bigger than 100, so I'm going to have to make that equivalent fraction is going to be smaller. So 1 over 200 equals x over 100. 200 divided by 2 gives us 100. So 1 divided by 2 gives us x equals 0 and 5/10. So 1 out of 200 equals 0 and 5/10%. Okay, you'll notice in that example that 0 and 5/10% is less than 1%. Percents can be even smaller than that, such as 0.001 or 0 and 1 thousandths, which equals to 1 over 100,000. So looking at the travel example, almost 3/4 of people who travel buy tickets online. So I'm going to do 3 over 4 equals x over 100. Okay, and I'm going to think, what times 4 gives me 100? Okay, I'm going to think of like quarters. 4 times 25 gives me 100. So I'm going to do 3 times 25 to find out that x equals 75, or 75%. Okay, pause this video and do the example D on your own. Looking at this last example on this page, about 2 out of 25 of the trash in landfills is metal. So we're gonna set up our equivalent fraction. We got 2 over 25 equals x over 100. I'm gonna think, what times 25 gives me 100? And I know 4 times 25 is 100. So 2 times 4, x equals 8, or 8%. So now we're going to write percents as a fraction. We know by the definition of a percent that a percent is just a number over 100. So I'm going to take the percent, put it over 100, and then simplify it down as far as I can. So, looking at example 5, the circle graph shows the favorite movie treats of a group of students. Write the percent for popcorn as a fraction in simplest form. So, I notice the purple chunk of our circle graph says popcorn is 38%. So, we're going to put 38 over 100. Okay, looking at those numerator and denominator, I notice that they both can be simplified by 2. Which results in 19 over 50, which cannot be simplified. So 38% as a fraction simplified is 19 over 50. Looking at the candy, I notice candy is 28%. So I'm going to put 28% over 100. And looking at that, I notice that that can be simplified. Okay, I'm going to start with simplifying it by 2, because that's the number that I noticed first. So doing 28 divided by 2, I get 14. 100 divided by 2, I get 50. Okay, 14 over 50, I still think that can be simplified further. So I'm going to simplify it by another 2. And I end up with 7 over 25. Okay, that cannot be simplified anymore. So 28% of students whose favorite treat is candy is the same as 7 over 25. Okay, I simplified by 2 twice, but I could have taken both of those and multiplied them together and just simplified by 4 from the beginning. Either way works. Okay, skipping over nachos, we're going to look at hot dogs. Okay, so hot dogs, 7% of students that's their favorite. So I'm going to put 7 over 100. And I'm racking my brain. 7 and 100. I don't think that can be simplified because 7 can only be divided by 7 and 1. 100 can't be divided by 7. And dividing by 1 doesn't change anything. So my fraction for 7%, like hot dogs, is just 7 over 100. Okay, so here's just a quick check for understanding. I want you to pause, try to solve these on your own. Then I'm going to rapid fire go through the correct answers for them. So pause the video now. Okay, so write each ratio as a percent. Number 1, 17 out of 100. Percents are out of 100, so that's 17%. Number 2, 237 per 100. Percents are out of 100, so that's 237%. Number 3, taxes. In Illinois, the sales tax rate is 6 and 25 cents for every 100 cents spent. Percents are out of 100, so that percentage is 6 and 25/100%. Jumping to the next group of questions, write each ratio or fractions as a percent. Percents are out of 100. So looking at number 4, 7 to 10, I'm going to write that as 7 over 10. and put my new denominator out of 100. Percents are out of 100. 10 times 10 is 100. 7 times 10 is 70. So my answer is 70%. 9 over 20, again, percents are out of 100. 20 times 5 gives me 100. 9 times 5 gives me 45%. 1 out of 500. I am going to write this as a fraction, knowing that percents are out of 100. I'm going to do 500 divided by 5 to get 100. 1 divided by 5 gives me 0 and 0.2%. Jumping to this third and last group of questions, write each percent as a fraction in simplest form. Percents are out of 100, so I'm going to put my percents over 100 and simplify. 19 over 100. 19 is prime, and 100 can't be divided by 19. So 19% as a fraction is 19 over 100. Number 8, 50%. 50 over 100. I know that can be simplified by 50. So my simplified fraction is 1/2. 18%. 18 goes over 100. That can both be divided by 2. So I get 9 over 50. 9 over 50 cannot be simplified. So 18% as a fraction is 9 over 50.